And hello, everybody. Chris Bartell here from the Cascade Pacific Council. Welcome to our webinar on Eagle Scout Scholarships. Super excited to have you here this evening, and we are recording this, so it will be on our website as well. And for those of you who are joining us live, there will be a question and answer period at the end of our webinar. Joining me tonight is Dave Wyden and Bob Yokiyama. I'm going to have them introduce themselves here in a bit. For those of you who are joining us, you will be able to ask questions in the chat. I'd love it if you could hold off to the end because we're going to answer a lot of questions and we'll try and get through. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities. So I think you're going to be really excited about this. For those Eagle Scouts who are on board here and the parents, they're going to be excited about it too. And so we're going to go through that here. First of all, we're going to go through a lot of the national Eagle Scout scholarship opportunities, and then we're going to go through the local Eagle Scout scholarship opportunities. So I'm going to run through the national ones here. And just so you know, like I said, we're recording this, and so it will be on the website. You'll be able to ask questions at the end. We will have a Q&A period of time at the end of our webinar. So let's get started. So first of all, let's run through a whole bunch of national scholarships from the Boy Scouts of America and a bunch of partners. First of all is the National Eagle Scout Association. For those of you who have attained the rank of Eagle, you're probably already getting information from the National Eagle Scout Association, and you should join because then you become an alumni of the National Eagle Scout Association, just like the rest of us here. And so please do that. And here we're going to run through some of the scholarship opportunities you'll see at nesa.org. But first of all, let's talk about the timeline. So to be eligible, you must have had your Eagle Board of Review on or before January 24th, 2023, okay? And so because the application portal is open right now, so you can actually check it out at nesa.org, and it is going to be open through January 31st, 2023. So good idea to get in and look at deeper into some of the information I'm going to go over tonight, dive into there and really get all the details. Your application must be completed by 10 p.m. Pacific time on January 31st, and they will announce the scholarships in June of 2023. To be eligible, you can apply. This is actually really interesting and a really good opportunity because you can actually apply beginning at the end of your senior year of high school all the way through your junior year in college. And so you can only win one time. Sorry, gang, you can only win once, but you can apply year over year for these scholarships. And they are available to Eagle Scouts really attending any four-year college or university, vocational trade school, and any other approved programs. So a lot of those higher ed programs. They're not available, however, to students attending any of the U.S. military academies. So you can still apply now, even if you're applying for military academies, and then it would all get, you would find out, of course, before you'll find out that you'll get into the military academy before the scholarships are announced. So if you were to get into a military academy, you'd want to let the National Eagle Scout Association know that, hey, I've already, I've been accepted into the military academy of my choice, and so I am no longer eligible for the National Eagle Scout Association scholarship. They are also not available to graduate students or those pursuing a master's or doctoral degree. And like I said before, you must join the National Eagle Scout Association. And if you are already an Eagle Scout, you've already received that information from them, I'm sure. Okay, we're going to go over a few of these because I think you're going to be pretty shocked and blown away at the opportunities here. So these are a few that you'll see on the website here. One of them is the Lawrence S. and Mabel Cook Scholarship, which they have multiple scholarships here. So they've got one for $48,000, four at $25,000, and one at $10,000. Now, these are based on academic performance, financial need, and active participation in school and scouting activities. And one of the $10,000 scholarship opportunity is actually for our territory. What that is think of it really as the West Coast. So just so you know that. The National Eagle Scout Association scholarship itself, they have two of them at $5,000 and one at $3,500 from our area. So basically, we call it the Western region, but kind of think of it as the West Coast. So you definitely should apply because there are multiples available. And again, you just need to show that you're active in school, scouting activities, and that you do a lot of community service, which of course you do because you're an Eagle Scout, right? Okay, there are some civic scholarships too. Now, these are some partners of ours, of the National Boy Scouts of America. And so one of them is the American Legion Eagle Scout of the Year, which is up to $10,000. Deadline for that is March 1st. The Arthur M. and Bernardina King Eagle Scout Scholarship is up to $10,000, and that deadline is January 15th. And the Veterans of Foreign Wars Scout of the Year is up to $10,000. Deadline for that is March 1st. Now you're going to find these at cpcbsa.org/ESS. That will jump you right to the page here. And you'll see at the bottom of the page, there are links to these so you can get all of the information. Another one too are these religious scholarships. There's a bunch of these too. You'll see here for the Catholic community, there's the Emmett J. Doerr Memorial Distinguished Scout Scholarship for $5,000. Deadlines here are March 1st. There are multiple for the Jewish community. So if you're involved in the Jewish community, you should really go to cpcbsa.org/ESS. You're going to see these listed here. There's one for $4,000, $1,000. There's multiple for $1,000. You're going to want to check out the links for that and do a search and find out all the details. But these deadlines, remember, are really January 31st, March 1st. They are coming down the pipe. So, while you're on holiday break, it's a good time to get in on these scholarships and work on those. So check that out at cpcbsa.org/ESS. Okay, we're going to talk about the Royden M Bodley Scholarship for Forestry. You must actually, for this one, you must be an Eagle Scout from the Cascade Pacific Council. You have to attend an institution of higher education in Oregon and be pursuing an education in forestry, wildlife conservation, environmental science, or related fields that will continue your interest in the outdoors. Now, the scholarship is available for up to 4 years, and the deadline for this is March 1st. You go to OregonStudentAid.gov, do a search for this one, and apply for that. Really a great opportunity if you're into forestry, conservation, and things of that nature. You're pursuing a degree in that regard. There's also the National Eagle Scout Project of the Year, and that is actually submitted to our council, and that is, you'll see that at nesa.org, all the details, but the deadline for that is January 31st. So as you can see, a lot of these deadlines are coming around January 31st, so you're going to want to get in on that soon and start working on those scholarships. And you probably have a lot of the information. We're going to go over how you can apply for the scholarships here in the CPC, and I think a lot of that information can be repurposed for a lot of these scholarships too. So all right, now enough of the national opportunities and the broader opportunities. We're going to jump in here to our local Cascade Pacific Council scholarships. I'd love to introduce my friends here, Dave Wyden, Bob Yokoyama. They are amazing gentlemen who have been a huge part of the scholarships that you're going to apply for, hopefully, and they have lots of details, and you're going to want to pay attention because there are some specifics here that you're going to want to know about. Okay, Dave, Bob, you guys take it away. I'll drive the car here and you just navigate for me.
Thank you, Chris. So good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Yokoyama, and I've been serving on this scholarship selection committee for the last 7 years. I am an Eagle Scout, and also I've been involved with when my boys were in scouting 20 years ago. But when I retired, because scouting just changed my life, I dedicated myself to saying that this is now my time to pay it forward. So I'm also serving currently on the Cascade Pacific Council Board of Directors. I'm the endowment chair, and I also serve on several committees. So now, Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, Bob, thank you. I am also an Eagle Scout, about the same vintage as Bob. Have been involved with the scholarship committee for somewhere around 25 years. I can't tell you who started it. I know why we started it, but it's a little vague on who was responsible. I'm the father of an Eagle Scout and the grandfather of an Eagle Scout, and have been active and involved off and on for 70 years. I consider myself once an Eagle, always an Eagle, and that's why I continue to be involved and paying back like Bob. We both got a lot out of scouting, and we both feel the need to give back. So with that, the local scholarship, about 25 years ago, it was introduced as a way to honor or help Eagle Scouts with their further education and or training. And I believe the first amount was $1,000 scholarship, and it was one. And then through the years, we've had individuals and troops make donations, considerable donations. And Bob will get into details of how many scholarships we have now, but it's grown significantly since I started with that first $1,000 one. So Bob, why don't you now tell them how many scholarships there are and how much the winners get?
Thank you, Dave. So as you can see on the screen there, we award 10 scholarships every year. And the top scholarship is one award awarded for $4,500 and 9 others get $2,000 each. The way the selection process works is that all of the applicants that submit their applications who are eligible, and then they are then distributed to all members of our committee. Right now, we have 6 on our committee, and we individually go through each of the applications, read all about your projects, read your essay, read your letter as a recommendation and so forth. And then we decide, each of us, our top 10 in order. We submit it to our chair, and he then makes a composite top 10, and they become the winners. And of that top 10, we then call in the top 5, half of them, and then we interview them so that one of them we choose to win the 4,500, and the other 9, including the 4 that came into interview, would win the 2,000. So that's kind of how the selection process works. And similar to other scholarships, they're available for college, trade schools, and approved programs. So with that, let's see, we got the selection process. So Dave, can you take us to the next slide?
I sure can.
Who's eligible for the scholarship?
Okay, eligibility, there's, excuse me, 3 main things. Eagle Scout residing in the CPC service area, not necessarily Eagle Scout earned here, just currently residing here. Currently a senior in high school and a 3.0 GPA, that's cumulative. And you'll notice on the application, we do not ask for transcript. We are dealing with Eagle Scouts, so we take your word for it. The reason for the GPA is we are looking for well-rounded, balanced scouts, and you understand that bar is quite high because everybody who comes in to apply is already an Eagle Scout. So we're looking at how to distinguish from the great and the greater. Anyway, that's the eligibility. And Bob, the dates and deadlines are coming up like all the scholarships, so fill us in.
Okay, thank you, Dave. So it's pretty self-explanatory. First of all, the application period begins tomorrow at 7:00 a.m. December 5th, and that means that's when applications will be accepted. You could download the applications this evening if you like, or if you've done it already, great. And we will get into how you and where you find that in a few slides later. The final deadline for submission is January 13th of 2023. And when we say final deadline, you'll notice that we'll explain that this year you can submit it online or by mail or in person. And we just say that the final deadline, January 13th, has to be in the hands of the CPC office, and that if you are mailing it, please keep that into consideration and get it in the mail in enough time for us to receive it at the office. Then after the selection process starts to roll in that next month, then the finalists and the ones that did not make it are all notified during that week of February 13th through the 17th. And then the top 5 of the top 10 also are then asked to come in for interviews during the week of February 20th. And that's where we will get the final $4,500 top scholarship. So that's really the dates. And I think next, Dave, would you share with everyone what the application components are?
I'd be happy to. You've all filled out the Eagle application, and so you know what these forms are like. And I will tell you, ours is far less complex than the Eagle Scout one. But it's asks for a Scout resume, school involvement, leadership activities. What we're looking for there is a leadership activities. Remembering everybody's already an Eagle Scout. So how have you distinguished yourself within the community, within school? an essay, and this is where you can tell us about yourself, why you want the scholarship, what you've done, what scouting's meant to you. It's gone a lot of different ways. But one, the Service Eagle Scout Service Project, just workbook pages A to C, a letter of reference typed 1 page, and most important, when you're filling the form out, follow the directions. And regardless of what Bob and I and Chris may say tonight, the final word is what's on the application. So if we make a mistake, the application determines what's correct. So if you have questions when you're doing it, talk with your scout leaders or check with the scout office, but follow the directions. And the process, this application has grown, evolved over the last years significantly. And Bob's going to explain how we got to what's actually really a simplified application form.
Okay. Before I get to the criteria for the top 5, I just want to share a couple of tips for just your application. One of the things that we saw often from applicants is in the essay, they'll say a scout is so-and-so, trustworthy so-and-so, and all that, and list all the 12 laws and say, every one of them impacted me. Thank you very much. And what we're looking for is a little bit more deeper dive into that. Take 1 or 2 of the scout laws and tell us exactly how it impacted you. Not that it just impacted you, but how did it impact you? Tell us your story. And I think that makes a difference between the winners and the ones that we've had to pass over. So that's a tip. And the most important thing is, like Dave stressed on the slide before, is following the instructions. So often we've had applicants that did not follow the instructions, and therefore we did not have all the criteria and information to make a good decision. So we have to bypass that person. So follow the instructions and be authentic and elaborate on exactly what you're talking about when it's the essay and answering the questions. When we ask you a question, answer it with an example, because that adds credibility. And so I want to share that. But now in the interview process, once the top 5 are selected, then we bring the top 5 in, knowing that 4 of them are already still winners at $2,000, but one of them is going to win $4,500. And so we bring them in for about a 30-minute interview with all of the members of our committee. Like I said earlier, there's 6 of us, and we have it in person unless we have a situation like COVID where we can't. And they come into the office for 30 minutes, and it's just an opportunity for us to know the applicant. So what we're looking for is for you to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your scouting story, how it impacted you, and a little bit about your Eagle Scout project. We'll ask you about 10 questions going around the horn there with various members asking questions for you to go into a deeper dive on elaborating what you had answered. And we're also looking at, just like a job interview, articulation and overall impression. Your nonverbal communication is so important. And when you answer, if I were to ask you a question like, what's your number 1 strength? Don't just say follow through, for example, and tell us a story about it. Because what that does is it validates your claim, not just that I have to believe you. So it's no different than interviewing for a job, and it's a good practice. So, we try to make everybody feel comfortable, because we're not trying to scare everybody. We're trying to get information so we can make a good decision. So that's kind of the criteria. Dave, on this, do you have anything to add?
No, Bob, I think you've covered that well.
Okay.
Thank you. I think you should say it's a calm experience. There's no, we don't put anybody on the spot.
Right. We don't have any heavy lamps on the person. No,
we do privately call this our ego wake-up call, because we're looking at scouts and the tremendous talent and activities.
Right. Okay, so if we can go to the next slide, Chris. Thank you. So I'd like to share something that we're very proud of. We made a lot of changes this past year. We studied the whole process. We studied our application. We made it simpler. We got more specific. And because our whole goal is to make every scout succeed. And in the past, the ones that shined were the ones that kind of came in with some extra stories, the ones that others didn't share that really were inspiring to us. But now what we're trying to do is saying, tell us something inspiring about yourself. Tell us what you're proud of. And so we're trying to make it easy for everyone to succeed. So first of all, we expanded our committee size by 1/3. We were at 4 members prior to this year. We added 2 more, so now we have 6. And the 2 that we added were from varying scouting experiences and backgrounds. So now we have a little more diversity in our committee. We simplified the form. First of all, we asked that the form be typed. In the past, we suggested it, but we didn't insist on it. Now it's a requirement. We have found sometimes we have applications with the scout probably willing to being able to win, except we couldn't read the handwriting. So we're now asking for everything to be typed, and the form now is a PDF download with a fillable form where you fill in a space and you hit enter and it takes you to the next space there. You can now download the entire process, all the elements, the documents, and the application online. And so that's a new feature that we added technology to. And we asked on our questions, we now give examples so that there's clarification exactly what we're looking for in the answer. So there's no misunderstanding. And we added some additional questions. One question that I recall that we added is, what is one time growing up where you demonstrated extra resilience and grit? So it's those things that we felt were the successes of previous winners, and that we wanted to give every opportunity for every scout to be able to share that, their answer. So that's kind of everything we have. Chris, you want to lead us taking questions from our audience?
Yeah, great. If anybody has any questions, you can go ahead and put it into the chat there, and we will see it. You won't see it amongst yourselves, but it will send to us. So if you have any questions, that would be great. You can go ahead and throw that into the chat. And I do have a question. So in terms of the letters of recommendation, who should they get letters of recommendation from? What would be best? Do you have recommendations there?
So we do.
Go ahead, Bob.
Oh, I'm sorry. We do ask that it's from a scout leader. And so it's somebody that, a scout leader that knows you very well. So in most cases, it would be a scoutmaster, current or previous, but it can be anybody that's in the scouting community. Dave, you want to add to that?
No, I did want to add on the application that we have 6 people that review them. We all have our own criteria. And yet when we come to the final 10, we're pretty much all in agreement. It's just amazing how it works.
Great. Well, let's see, I do see one question. Oh, that's a great question. Okay, here we have some questions rolling in here. First one is from Nate. He's asking, how many applicants usually apply?
That's a good question. Can I answer that?
You may.
I was going to answer that a little later, but we say that the first 50 are the only applications that we will accept. And it was kind of a time limitation on the committee's part. But did you know that the last 7 years that I've been involved, we've never hit 50? Matter of fact, the average, I took an average of all the number of applicants the last 7 times, and the average is 32, which means that for every person that applies, you basically have a 1 in 3 chance of winning either at least $2,000. And that's something that I don't think you could find in any other scholarship that on our list here or anywhere else, we're a 1 in 3 chance that you're going to win. So we're proud of saying that. So it's a great question. Thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thanks, Nate. That's great. And there are a couple questions here I'm going to answer about the local versus the national scholarship. So the local scholarship is for high school seniors, correct? Yep.
Correct.
Great.
Yes.
And you'll notice, gang, that on the National Eagle Scout Association scholarships, there's a whole variety of them. So really look at the details. But the main ones from the National Eagle Scout Association, you can apply for during your senior year in high school all the way through your junior year of college. So just be aware of that. Look at the details at nesa.org. And so you'll want to check that out. And you can apply multiple times for some of these scholarships as well. Not the Cascade Pacific Council one that Bob and Dave are talking about, because that's just for your senior year. But for those of you who are juniors, this is really great. You can go on the website too, and you can see the questions and download them. It's totally transparent, so you can be prepared for next year. So and you can see it's actually simplified this year, and just be ready to apply next year if you're a sophomore. When you're getting ready to be a senior, by golly, you should apply for this definitely. Let's see here. Let me look at the questions here. We answered this one. Do letters of recommendation have to be from scouting? And some of the adults in the troop who knew me best have had their scouts age out. So what are your recommendations there?
So to me, a scouting leader doesn't have to be a scouting leader today. It could have been a scouting leader a year ago, 2 years ago, whose youth has already aged out, and now they've left scouting. So as long as they were a scout leader when you were in the troop at some point. Do you agree, Dave?
I do agree. I have written letters for people well after the fact, just because you keep in touch with some.
Great. And there were some questions that we just answered in regard to when to apply. So again, apply for senior year. You can apply for the Cascade Pacific Council scholarships, the other scholarships for national, and probably some of the religious and civic scholarships. You're going to have to look at some of the details for those as to when you can apply, if you can actually apply while you're in college, or if they're only allowed during senior year. The Cascade Pacific Council one is only available for your senior year, however. And here's another question, though, in this regard. Do we need to have been accepted to our colleges before we apply for any of the scholarships? And if so, would the scholarships only be applicable to the colleges we put into our application?
Chris, I'd like to take that one. No, most of the people we interview are applying for college. There's been a couple who have been accepted already because it's early in the process for us. But one thing I wanted to add, the application is when it's due in January. In your senior year, there's a gap if you don't have your Eagle project or your Eagle rank by that deadline, then even though you're still a senior, you're not eligible. So it behooves you to get your Eagle rank prior to the December of your senior year. My grandson was one who fell outside of that.
Great question. That's a great point. But it does mean you are still eligible likely for a variety of those national scholarships. So you folks should definitely apply to those as well.
Chris,
yes, go ahead.
Can I add something?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So one thing is that you could have gotten your Eagle in your sophomore year, your junior year, and you did not have to get your Eagle in the senior year. It's just that you have to have been an Eagle by the time that you are a senior, and that currently you are a senior residing in this council. So you could have gotten your Eagle. We've interviewed scouts that have gotten their Eagles 2 years before we interview them because they got it when they were a sophomore. So I just wanted to clarify that between getting your Eagle and applying for the scholarship. Thanks, Chris.
That's great. And here's another question. Is it okay if the letter of reference is from a member of the Order of the Arrow rather than a troop leader?
Bob, I'm going to let you have that one.
I think it's okay. We would not deny that because that's a scout leader. And so If it was a leader in the Order of the Arrow, I think that's acceptable.
That's awesome. Here's another one. How would the scholarships affect somebody with a transfer degree? I think that's going to be in regards to college and not high school. So that would not be, we wouldn't deal with that in the Cascade Pacific Council scholarship,
Right.
since those are only for senior year high school seniors. However, again, look at nesa.org, nesa.org. That's the National Eagle Scout Association website for details, and you can go to cpcbsa.org/ESS. That's where we have the listing there at the bottom of the page with all of the links to those other scholarships, the civic ones and the religious ones. So you want to check those out because there's a lot of details. I don't think any of them are horrendously difficult to apply for, but just I think it's a really good point that Bob and Dave made here, which is really pay attention to the details is really, really key when you're answering the questions. While you may think you can copy paste a lot, and there could be a little bit here and there depending on all the things you've applied for, but also just make sure you're answering the questions and be focused on the actual application you're working on right then and there. Okay, gang, any other questions here? Let's see. Oh, here's one. Is the $4,500 scholarship a lump sum or divided across 4 years?
Dave, you have the answer to that?
Yeah, it is a lump sum. It's just for the senior year in high school. So it's used for your first year in whichever college or school you're going. It's a 1-year scholarship.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, gang. Any other questions? You can keep throwing questions into the Q&A there. And we're going to continue on with a couple other quick points here about the Eagle Scout Scholarship. And we also have a story from one of our winners from the past, which we'll share with you here in a moment. But first, let's go to our next slide here, just a little bit about supporting the fund. You want to chat a little bit about that?
I mentioned earlier on that this has grown from $1,000 scholarship to about 22.5 now. This is kind of ranked in order of the age of the people that might be donating. Text to ESF to the number 4144. Give online at cpcbsa.org, or for the older, mail a check to the council office. And if you have grandparents you want to encourage, when you hit 72, you have to take a certain amount of money out of your IRA every year. And I make a donation to Scouts from that every year because it becomes tax-free to me, and it helps the Scouts. So there's multiple ways you can support it. And I know most of you listening are probably looking to gain money, not to give it. But we keep in mind as you age in the workforce, and you're looking for places, or your family's looking for places to donate year end, keep the Eagle Scout Scholarship in mind. It's a great opportunity.
Hear, hear. Okay, let's go over quickly here. Bob, did you want to give us a summary, or should we meet our previous scholarship winner?
Yeah, you want to introduce them, and then I'll have some comments about them, and then I'll
awesome.
cover the summary after that.
Great. Well, I had an awesome opportunity to meet Dawson Durig this week, and he was a winner 4 years ago. He has a really great story. So he's actually pretty close to your age. For those of you who are seniors, he's really a senior at University of Portland and working on his master's in finance. And so let's hear a little bit about how scouting's impacted his life. Again, he was our big winner 4 years ago.
I was severely dyslexic with stutter. And let's just say my self-confidence was little to none. And with scouting, I believe really it helped me just like find my own and just figure out kind of like where I want to be in life. I want to get in the finance world, something into international banking and such. I know Spanish and German, so I want to do something in synopsis where I can kind of utilize that. So hopefully I'll be able to work in somewhere in the like a global bank. So that's my goal. For someone who didn't have any friends growing up till really I got into scouting, it's basically a whole new group of friends, a community. I was able to find friends, learn skills that I never thought I could have, and like learn what leadership is at such a young age and how to communicate with adults and just make sure you know how to deliver your message and what you want to do. And I learned that in so many different ways throughout the years with scouting.
So I got to know Dawson, and I even was able to visit his Eagle Project at a cemetery here in the Wilsonville area. But Dawson was amazing. What he impressed us with, and I share this to be a few tips for you in what impresses us as a committee. But in his essay, he articulated how he overcame that challenge, that learning disability that he shared on the video there, and making friends and so forth. And he shared a few stories about how scouting really helped him. And that really impressed us. He did not have the highest GPA, by the way. I believe he was a 3.2. And so you don't have to be a 4.0 to win the top award. We felt that overcoming his challenges throughout his entire schooling and still getting a 3.2 was amazing. And his Eagle Project, he shared how he raised $17,000 and did this massive project that was honoring all the veterans that were buried in a cemetery, over 170 of them. And so when we brought him in, and I had a chance to talk to him recently also, and I asked him, so how'd you prepare for the interview? He said, well, I try to guess what kind of questions the committee would be asking me. So I formulated answers, I elaborated and told short stories, and I also practiced. And so I felt very comfortable when I was in that interview. Also, let's see, he says, I didn't just want to list the 12 laws. That's what I shared earlier. He said exactly that. And he said, I wanted to share exactly to my heart what scouting, how it impacted me, and not just name off the 12 laws to make up the length of the essay. He said, one thing that I made sure is I proofread, and I used spell check and had other people proofread it also. And I wanted to make sure that I was making a positive impression. So I think those are a lot of tips that we all can learn from. And so on this summary slide here, there is the website, cpcbsa.org/ESS. That will get you right to the instructions, the download of the PDF fillable form, and also later on how to then submit it online by clicking that button. And so that's the key to start. And as we've stressed over and over, following the directions, that is so important, because that just makes all the difference between a successful application and one that's missing something. We also talked about submitting via 3 different ways. You could either submit it online right at that website, you can mail it into the CBC office, or you can hand deliver it to the CBC office. But just know that the final deadline that has to be in the hands of the CBC office is January 13th. And we said earlier about we only accept the first 50 applications. I would love to see 50 applications come in. I think the biggest one in the 9 years was 38. And we've had some in the 29s and 28s, and that's why the average was 32. So take that opportunity. Don't feel like, gee, I don't know. There's 600 Eagle Scouts last year, and I'm sure there's 600 applications. Who am I to stand out amongst them? It's the ones that are taking that step. So please submit your applications. We would love to see 50 applications. Back to you, Chris.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Dave and Bob. Really, really appreciate your time. Anybody else have any other questions? Throw them into the Q&A here real quick, because we're going to close up. Really appreciate your time, Bob and Dave, as I mentioned, and for all of you who joined us tonight. Again, go to cpcbsa.org/ESS, and you'll see the information there, and jump on in there. And tomorrow, because that's when it will be live, and you'll be able to see the actual form that you'll fill out. So check that out tomorrow morning. And also, you'll see on that page is a link to submit your Eagle Scout service project. So I would love to see that. We'd love to be able to share that with the greater community, with the world. You may see on our Facebook and Instagram, and if you're okay with us posting that, it would be really awesome to be able to share these amazing endeavors you've all undertaken with your Eagle Scout Eagle projects. It's really such an endeavor, and we'd love to share how the impact you've made on your community and what you've done for others. It's just such a neat way to share the story. People love seeing it. So I really would love it if you would submit your Eagle Scout service project there on that button there, and send us some photos too. That would be super, super awesome. And your approval to share that with not just locally, but even nationally is really fun to be able to share that. So we'd love to share those stories like you've heard from Dawson and others. You see them on our Facebook and Instagram too. When we receive them, we'd love to share them. We get your approval, of course, so we won't do it without your approval, but we'd love to share that. And especially if you have great before and after pictures, because also you can submit those to Scouting Magazine and things like that too, and Scout Life Magazine. So it's a really, really fun way to share the impact you've made on the community. So, and Bob, you have another comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Chris, on behalf of Dave and I, we want to thank you, Chris, for taking the time to allow us to join you in sharing the program. And we just want to share our appreciation for everything you do for scouting. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you.
It is my pleasure and my dream job. So I'm very, very honored and blessed to be here. And I'm an Eagle Scout too. I forgot to mention that part. But so this is really great. Really appreciate your support, Bob and Dave. And again, gang, if you have or parents who are on here and you have grandparents who want to support the Eagle Scout Scholarship, you can actually go here too to cpcbsa.org/ESS. And there's a link there for to give to the scholarship fund. What a great opportunity to help other scouts in the future with their futures, basically, which is super, super great. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I don't see any other questions rolling in here, so we are going to close up shop. Really, really, again, really appreciate everybody's time tonight. And again, if you have any questions, you can go to cpcbsa.org/ESS. And again, as always, thank you so much for your grit, your perseverance, your resilience, Eagle Scouts. Really proud of you. Welcome to the world of Eagle Scouting. And because, as we always say, all that grit that you've grown into, that you've learned, that you've experienced, it does last forever. And that's why guys like us and gals like us who have been involved in scouting for a long, long time still love it, still passionate about it, and can't wait to see what you all do with your careers and your life. Thanks again so much for joining us, and have a fantastic evening. Bye-bye.